Colliers Wood is one of those places that basically only exists because they built a tube station there. Well, actually, it does have a few claims to fame. But today we are going to look at this one right here. This is now Britannia Point. The building was formerly known as the Lion Tower, the Vortex, the Brown and Root Tower, but most commonly just as the Colliers Wood Tower. These days it's a pretty inoffensive, if not hugely imaginative structure, but before it was redeveloped in the mid-2010s it was one of the most hideous buildings in London. And don't just take my word for it. In 2006, a BBC poll voted it the ugliest building in London. It made a shortlist of the ugliest buildings in Britain on the Channel 4 programme Demolition. So what was so bad about it? Well, for starters, it was dreary. It was dark grey. It was brutalist, but with none of the imagination or distinctiveness that characterises the best examples of the genre. It bore an uncanny resemblance to the abandoned building sprites from SimCity 2000, if you've ever played that game. This resemblance was appropriate because it was indeed largely abandoned for a decade. But the worst thing about it was that it was huge, uncharacteristically huge for a residential area like this, and right at the heart of things. You couldn't pass through Colliers Wood without seeing this monster. Actually, one might argue that one of the major reasons they had difficulty finding tenants is because it was simply out of character for the area. There are a few shops nearby, and these days there's a retail park, but otherwise it's just not a very commercial sort of place. So if no one liked it, and no one was renting it, why was it even still there? Residents and local authorities alike campaigned for it to be redeveloped, some asking for outright demolition. So why wasn't it? Well, one explanation offered was that the tower was more or less directly on top of the Northern Line, so it's not as if they could just blow it up. Demolition would be slow, careful, and expensive. Meanwhile, the tower fell into greater and greater disrepair. In the years before its redevelopment, it had netting hung around it for fear of bits falling off and injuring passers-by. Redevelopment had admittedly been on the cards for a while. The idea was that it would be converted into housing and retail. The conditions set out by Merton Council in 2004 were that any redevelopment would have to include 50 affordable homes and £500,000 towards local schools. In 2011, Merton Council struck a deal with Criterion Capital, the investment firm that bought the tower. They agreed that the firm now wouldn't have to pay for the school places or provide affordable homes, in implicit acknowledgement that property developers are inhuman psychopaths who care only about money. This roadblock removed, redevelopment could go ahead. Except it didn't. The economic downturn of the late 2000s delayed things still further, with Criterion accusing Merton Council of messing them about. Their words. Meanwhile, the tower was boarded up and empty, apart from squatters, junkies, and the occasional adult entertainment producer. In 2017, after much delay, the rebuild was completed. Now Colliers Wood has a monumental structure that is, not as bad as it used to be. Success! Hi all, hope you enjoyed this architecturally ill-thought-out episode of Tales from the Tube. If you did, then please hit that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe for more. If you really, really liked it, then share it around and let your friends see what all the fuss is about. So what do you think? Do you think the new development is an improvement? Did you think that there wasn't much wrong with the old tower? Are you one of those people? Are you hoping that lockdown ends and I can start making videos about stuff that's beyond walking distance of my house? Let me know in the comments section below. And I'll see you next time for another tale from the tube. Cheerio.